Samuel 17. In 1 Samuel 17, we run into another name of God, Jehovah, Tsaba. We've got a problem. It's a big problem. It's a 9'6" problem. It's an NBA coach's dream. His name is Goliath of Gath. He is the champion of the Philistine army. This man at 9'6" has over 100 pounds of armor on him, as described in the chapter. He comes out, it says, day after day to taunt Israel. And that's how you know you got a giant in your life, because it looms large and won't let you go. A giant is anything in your life that looms so large that it controls your emotions. It says, and when Saul, verse 11, and all of Israel heard the words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. They were terrified because the giant was threatening them. We live in a threatening world. We live in a world of insecurity, a world of fear. We live in a Goliath world. Whatever you are fighting today, I want you to do me a favor. Whatever you battling today, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to name it Goliath. Whatever it is that's looming large in your life, call it a name. Call it Goliath. And the reason I want you to call it Goliath is because now you know where it's going to wind up. So yeah, I want you to call it Goliath. Little David comes on the scene. Little David comes to bring some food to his brothers who are on the front lines. They ain't fighting, but they there. And he comes and brings them some food. And he hears the Philistine come out and threaten. And he utters some powerful words. Utters them twice. In verse 26 and verse 36. He says, for who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should taunt the armies of the living God? Verse 36. And this uncircumcised Philistine will be like the lion and the bear, since he has taunted the armies of the living God. Okay, watch this now. Goliath is 9'6". David's 5'5". The whole army of Israel is looking up there, terrified by this giant. David looking down there and say he ain't been cut. David said that man ain't been to the doctor. He's uncircumcised. You see, it depends on what you're looking at. See, if you're looking at how big your problem is, you're looking in the wrong direction. The issue is, has it been cut? You see, circumcision was a sign of the covenant. The Israel boys were circumcised the 8th day to say by their parents, we're placing you under the covering of God. The covenant was like an umbrella. An umbrella doesn't stop it from raining, it just stops it from raining on you. It's a covering or a covenant. He says he may be big, but he's uncovered. There is no divine protection on his side. And knowing there was no divine protection on his side, it changed his perspective. You know, perspective is everything. It depends on what you're looking at. David had a different perspective. You know, a father had 2 sons, and one was always negative, always negative, always negative, always finding something wrong. The other one was always positive, always finding something right. He said, let me try to flip this. So he took the negative one and put him in a room with nothing but toys. So he shouldn't have any complaints. He could have fun all day long. He took the positive son and put him in a room, and it just had horse manure in it. It was a stinky room. He gave him an hour and he came back. The negative son with the toys was totally bored. He played with them and he's just sitting in the corner just bored. The positive son had a shovel and it was digging through the manure. He says, what are you doing? He says, well, with all this manure, there got to be a pony down here somewhere. It all depends on what you're looking at. And if you can get your eyes on God, Even though you can't miss the giant, it changes everything. Saul offers David to use his equipment. He says, I'm gonna let you use my stuff. Well, I guess he did, because he wasn't going to use it, but he said, I'm going to let you use my stuff. David said, I don't know that. I'm not good with that. But I do know how to use a slingshot, and I do know how to use some stones, and I'm going to take him with this. He comes to the Philistine. Philistine sees David in verse 43 and says, am I a dog, bow wow, that you come to me with sticks? You come to me with this little kid with sticks? And then he made the great mistake. He says, I curse you in the name of my gods. Mistake. See, when they first started out, it was a battle between the Philistines and Israel. Then it was Goliath in Israel. Then it was Goliath and David's God. But now it's David's God and Goliath's God. He says, I defy you in the name of my God. So now we got a battle of gods, not just a battle of men. You want to get God into the battle so that you're sicking somebody bigger on him than you can handle yourself. That's why God hates self-sufficiency, because self-sufficiency means you can handle it yourself. God wants to be your authority. And that's why David says to the Philistine in verse 45, you come to me with the sword, you come to me with the spear, you come to me with the javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, Jehovah Tsaba. I come to you because you got your army and he got his army. And his army is bigger than your army. In fact, he don't even need an army, but his army is a host of heaven coming to your aid. When you get to heaven, you're going to discover a lot of things that could have happened and should have happened didn't happen because God was fighting the battle for you. Or it didn't get as bad as it could have gotten if God hadn't been in the equation. So when you're in the battle, bring God into the equation. You know, in a football game, everybody's after the quarterback. The team is coming because the quarterback receives the ball, and everybody wants to tackle the quarterback. They want to defeat the quarterback. But the quarterback turns and he hands the ball off to the halfback. The halfback now takes the ball, and the folks who were coming after the quarterback change direction. They're no longer coming after the quarterback because the quarterback doesn't have the ball. They're going after the halfback because the halfback has been handed the ball. I don't know what Goliath is in your life, but hand him off. Hand him off so that the attack is no longer on you. David says, you come with all that stuff if you want to, but I come to you, I'm going to hand you off to somebody else. I'm going to hand you off to Jehovah Tsaba. It says that when he did that, he threw the slingshot, threw the stone, hit him in the forehead, took his sword, chopped his head off, took his head, gave it to Saul. They put it in a museum in Jerusalem. It says he took the sword, put it in his tent. Why did he give the head to Saul and keep the sword in his tent? As perpetual reminders, when the next fool comes up out here and thinks that they're going to defeat the armies of the living God, write down when God delivers you from your Goliaths. Write down Jehovah Nisi or Jehovah Tsaba has delivered me, because there's going to be a new giant around the corner. And you need to be reminded about the perspective that gave you victory, the perspective of God's name. My granddaughter calls me Poppy. That's her name for me. It's Poppy this and Poppy that. When she was a little teeny girl, she was over our house and I heard her screaming my name. Poppy, 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 Poppy. She was just screaming. I ran to the door and there's a dog chasing her. The dog is chasing her and she is terrified. The dog was much bigger than her. She was running for her life. She was scared to death. Fear had consumed her. And she just kept calling my name. She said, Poppy, Poppy, Poppy. And she jumped in my arms. The dog ran up to me and kept making noise. dog just kept nipping and barking, and she was heaving. Oh, puppy, puppy. She just kept calling my name. She kept calling my name. The dog was still barking while she called my name. Her calling my name didn't change the bark, but she kept calling my name. Then for a while, as the dog kept barking, she looked up at me and then looked down at the dog. She looked up at me and looked down at the dog. She looked up at me and this time looked down at the dog and said, nah, 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 nah. Where did she get that authority? Where did she get that confidence? Where did she get that power? She knew my name. And what she knew about me is while the dog may have been bigger than her, the dog wasn't bigger than Poppy. I don't care what your Goliath is. Call Jehovah Nissi, Jehovah Tsaba. He's bigger than your Goliath.